Hello, everyone. We are back with episode 34 of Natural Health and Astrology. I'm Lori Barnes. I'm an astrologer and psychotherapist and a moon lover, and that's why we do our monthly full moon video for you. I'm here with my co-host Annabelle, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi, I am Annabelle. I am a naturopath, a health coach, very passionate about essential oils, and I'm here with Laurie to help give you some tips on which oils you can use to help you during the different moon phases, which I believe right now is a full moon coming up, right, Laurie?
Yes, it is. It is growing in the sky. As a matter of fact, if you look at the moon right now, you probably think, oh, it's a full moon. It's almost a full moon.
Yeah. I saw it last night.
Yeah. Yep. So this is a Sagittarius full moon. This is a really dynamic and energetic full moon. I'm really excited about it. I'm a Sagittarius rising. I have kind of a dominant Sagittarius presence in my chart, and I know you're a Gemini, so both of us are really activated for this full moon. The theme of this month's full moon is expand and experience. That's our theme. And I'll give you the details. So the full moon in the United States West Coast will be at 4:52 a.m. on Tuesday, June 14th. On the East Coast, it'll be 7:52 a.m. and then it'll be around 1:52 p.m. here in Rome. So if you remember from previous episodes or not, I will let you know that full moons are the middle of the cycle. It's the peak of the cycle. The new moon represents the beginning of the cycle. And so I like to recommend that for full moons, you can really start doing your rituals or whatever way you're going to work with full moon energy before, during, and after the full moon. And during is, at that time that I just mentioned earlier, that's the peak of it. It switches phases at that time. It actually goes into the full moon phase. So as we're going into it, it's the gibbous phase, and then we have the full moon phase at that time. The reason why I say it's okay to start before, during, or after is because it's still in the same phase and it's peaking energy, right? So we can kind of gradiate to the peak, the top of the mountain, and then we kind of go over the top and go down, and it's all peaking energy. Whereas the new moon, we're literally ending a phase and starting a phase. And that's the difference why I recommend new moon is only during the new moon phase, but the full moon you can do before, as it's peaking and after. And as we can see for the timing, if you're in the US on the West Coast, it's super early in the morning and you probably don't want to wake up for something in the morning to do something right exactly. And you don't have to. That's the good thing. It's just that the full moon energy represents peaking energy, bringing things to fulfillment, to culmination, wrapping up a phase of something. Maybe you have some big project going on and it's not going to necessarily end. The project isn't going to finalize, but maybe you can bring something home during the full moon phase. Okay, so let's talk about this full moon. It's a really dynamic full moon. As I mentioned before, it's full of energy, it's full of vibrancy, and the whole sky is supporting this. When I look at the planets, all the planets, not just the moon, most of the planets are in air or fire signs. And I'm just looking. Most of them. I mean, Venus is in an earth sign, but we just have this amazing amount of planets in what we call the very active and dynamic or social signs. And since we're not focused on all the planets, I'm not going to go into details there. It does make a difference. If we have if we had only the sun and the moon, because the full moon's always opposing signs. So in this case, the sun's in Gemini, which is air, and the moon is in Sagittarius, which is fire. Those could be the only two kind of outgoing dynamic placements, and everything else could be in more water or earth signs, which are more grounded and more reactive or passive, you could say. But that's not the case. We have lots of stuff in dynamic signs. We have stuff in Aries, we have Aquarius, and then we have Gemini and Sag. So there's a lot of energy, and we're just coming out of the Mercury retrograde. We'll be out of even the shadow part. So that part after Mercury goes direct and before it gets back up to speed, that shadow is going to be ending. I want to say the 18th is the date where it's just back to its normal speed. So we're really coming into this time of swift, dynamic energy. And a lot of us may be welcoming that, maybe saying, I'm really ready to just get moving. I'm really tired of this Mercury retrograde stuff. You know, after like the whole beginning of the year where we had a lot of earth and just kind of a lot of water, and, you know, maybe a lot of dreaminess and more dispersed energy, where now we're just like dynamic, like go. Aries is like go, go, go. So we definitely have an Aries presence. That being said, though, we can go to the extreme opposite, where now it's like everything's like going so fast. It's like, wait a minute, slow down. You know,
I've been really feeling that in the last, really
like a
feeling
roller
that energy.
coaster, right? You know, it's like as you go up. You know, I think about Six Flags. I used to go when I was a kid, and that little clink, 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 clink as you get, and then you get to the top, and it's like, whoa. So we all might be feeling a little bit of that ride of like, oh my gosh, the energy is just completely taking off, and you know, I wanted it to move faster, but maybe not this fast. But it depends on your personality and your makeup and your life situation. You know, you can really like the fast pace, and it can still be too fast for just managing all those plates in the air. But then there's people who don't really like that fast pace, who prefer the slower pace. And so this may not be all that welcome. But then, you know, if things are kind of like, there's not a hectic, busy work schedule, and you don't have kids just getting out of school and getting into their summer routines. You know, some people have a different life situation and can really take this energy and run with it. It can be that thing that you've been waiting for, that moment you've been waiting for, where you just all of a sudden have the energy and the time and the kind of nature's rhythms all lining up for you, and you can really get something done, really focus on something, or focus on multiple things. Actually, Gemini is a dual sign. It's about doing more than one thing. So you can actually push more than one project forward during this time. So I wanted to talk about the solstice. June brings us the solstice. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, you're getting the summer solstice, and if you're in the southern hemisphere, you're getting the winter solstice, right? And so I really love what nature gives to us. It gives us symbolism to bring into our lives. The concept of overdoing it, or, you know, having all this energy, we may overdo it because we have all this energy, and then we realize, you know, the next day that, oh my gosh, I way overdid it. But I, you know, in the moment it felt good. I have all this energy. I can do it all. I can take on the world. I'm a superhero. But then the next day rolls around and you're like, oh my gosh, I am so tired. What was I thinking? And you know, that can go to any part of life. So, you know, think about, like, if you're celebrating something, be careful about drinking too much, or maybe eating too much and then paying for it the next day and not feeling good. And, you know, very cautionary to anyone who has any type of substance or you know, overuse. You know, if you struggle with any kind of addiction or substance use, eating disorders, gambling disorder, you know, all of those things are at risk of overdoing. So just be aware and make a purposeful intention to pace yourself around that. So back to the solstice, this symbolism that we have, that we get every year, 4 times a year, when we look at the equinoxes and the solstices, and it shows us going to these 2 extremes. While the northern hemisphere is going into the solar extreme, right, where we get our days of where we have the most sunlight, where we have more time in the day, say, to do things with sunlight out. The southern hemisphere is the opposite. They're having their shortest days, their coldest days. And this is just so interesting when you apply it to this concept of the cycles and overdoing it, underdoing it, going to extremes and bringing ourselves back into balance. the equinoxes represent those balance points. So when the sun goes to its farthest, when it has the most amount of sunlight in a day, it starts to bring it back in, and it comes all the way back in until the equinox, which is the balance, right? When we have the equal day or light hours and dark hours, and then it starts to go back out, right? So it's this ebb and flow. And at the same time, we have two hemispheres doing this, right? Where one is going in the opposite direction of the other. And so I was thinking about how this is just such a lovely representation and can really be metaphorical for how the human experience of life that we all live, how I think that in just an unconscious level that most of us are always trying to bring life into balance. We're always trying to find that balance point. We see that in the huge amount of money that gets spent on personal transformation and self-growth. I don't have that dollar amount. I've read about it, and it's a huge amount of money that people are spending. And that comes to, trying to find that balance, that meaning and purpose in life. And so, the metaphor of the solstices and the equinoxes, I think, are very helpful to remind us of that, every 3 months we get that reminder about balance and going to the extremes and coming back into balance, which is what we do as humans. Balance isn't a place to achieve and stay. It's a goal, but we just can't, because life changes. But I do believe that we can have this perimeter, you could say, a balance. Like if we live where like if it's a teeter-totter, you don't want to be going like this, you want to be going more like this, kind of like trying to stay around center, but understanding that sometimes we have to go out of balance. I think both of us have family visiting this summer, and that's going to put us out of balance, right? We have to change our schedule, and we're going to do things that we don't normally do, and maybe do some sightseeing, right? But then our family leaves, and we bring it back into more of our normal routine, which our normal routine also has those little things that disrupt it. And that's more of that equilibrium, whereas the family visit may put us like in a bigger out of balance that we bring it back in. Yeah, so that's really the important points I wanted to make about the solstice. I have a lot of other things to say about it, but I put that in the blog. So if you love this subject and you want to learn more about it, definitely read my blog.
When is the solstice?
The 21st.
21st.
It's actually the day that the sun moves into Cancer. So that's always the because Western astrology or tropical astrology, there's different types, but it's one of the most popular ways of constructing the horoscope. It's based on the seasons, and the seasons start with the signs Cancer and Libra, Capricorn, and Aries. Those are what we call the cardinal signs. So the solstices and the equinoxes are always on the days that the sun moves into those signs. It's interesting. It's so interesting. Now, I said that the theme was expand and experience. So this is really focusing on one side of this balance that we've been talking about. And we're in the Northern Hemisphere. And so we have because we're in the Northern Hemisphere, we have that daylight to correspond with the energetics of the full moon, the Sag and Gemini. Expand and experience are very much Sagittarius words, and that's why I chose them and this theme, in addition to how the planetary lineup looks at this year's full moon in Sagittarius, because remember, we have a full moon in Sagittarius every year. It may not always look like this. I mean, certainly we won't have the planet Jupiter in Aries, because it takes 12 years. Every year Jupiter is going to be in a different sign for 12 years before it starts all over again. So just to give you an idea of how it's unique this year. So Sagittarius is about expanding and experiencing your world. Sagittarians love the experience of life, and that concept of it's about the journey, not the destination. And one other thing about Sagittarius that's important is that it's about taking your spirituality to a higher level. I'm not talking about religion, although it can be religion if that's how you experience spirituality in your life, but it's broader than religion. It's kind of like how you it's very much in alignment with your values and how you embrace life and how you grow through this life. You know, life is about growth and experience and expansion, and it's also about other things, but from the Sagittarius perspective, those are those keywords, and we all have that somewhere in our charts. We all have Sagittarius somewhere in our charts, and that part of your life, and I can't say what it is for you because each person's chart is different, but somewhere in your life is definitely being activated to expand and experience and grow your spirituality and however you define that. So it's a really exciting time. I'm gonna give you some practical ideas for what you can do under this full moon energy. I do want to say that Sagittarius is associated with the color purple. So that's why I'm dressed in purple today.
Yeah, I thought there was a reason.
Yeah,
you were looking pretty purple.
I was like, do I have any purple rings?
What else can I add?
One. I'm like, I need more. I got to get some amethyst rings. But yeah, so it's the color purple is highlighted. So if you're into purple, you know, get your purple out. So and go on your spiritual quest. And the other reason I wanted to mention that is because purple is the color of the crown chakra. If you know, the chakra is like there's 7 energetic centers that kind of line up the top of our head to the
base of the spine.
Yes, base of, thank you. And so the crown chakra is all about spirituality. It's about kind of connecting with that higher almost unattainable part, that, you know, the unseen, the world that we don't see but we believe in. And I'm going to just stop there because I don't want to go too woo-woo or too religious oriented. I'm going to hand it over to Annabelle to hear about what essential oils can support us through this full moon.
Yeah, so a great oil, I think, for supporting us during this full moon phase is basil, which, funnily enough, I got out a couple of days ago without knowing what this full moon was about, because I hadn't spoken to Laurie yet. But I'll tell you why I got it out in a minute. It was more of a practical use, but on an emotional level, this oil is really great for helping us if we do start to feel like we're overdoing it. So we might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit drained or just a little bit too tired because of all of this energy that is around during this full moon. As Laurie was saying, you know, that could be a risk for some of us. So inhaling basil oil is probably the best way to get those benefits up, just to kind of bring you back into alignment. But for anyone who just is looking for an essential oil to support them during the full moon phase, just to feel more alignment with the energy that's going on, basil oil is great for that, just because of its positive properties, which is, you know, helping you feel restored, energized, strengthened. So it's got some, you know, really great qualities to it. And interestingly, it's funny that you mentioned the substance abuse and you know, addictions and things, because basil is also known as being an oil that can be helpful for recovery from negative habits. So it can also assist us in giving up false stimulants, because it provides more natural energy. So when people are trying to move away from those negative habits that they've been, you know, relying on, basil oil can be really helpful in that process. It also has it can be used in so many ways, this oil. It actually has antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antiviral, decongestant properties, and lots more. And I actually got it out the other day because a little boy got stung by a wasp on his cheek. And it's great for wasp and bee stings, insect bites, snake bites. You don't even have to dilute it because it's quite a soft oil, let's say. So I just put it directly on his cheek just to take away the inflammation and the sting. I've used it on myself before, and it really, really helps. So especially, where we are in Italy, and it's summertime at the moment, whilst the wasps are out, and so it can be quite helpful. And because it's basil, it can also be used for cooking, because these doTERRA oils are totally safe for internal use. In fact, if you do feel like you're a bit drained and a bit, you haven't got enough energy, it's probably your adrenal glands that are suffering. You've just been putting them through too much. So you can actually take basil oil internally in one of the veggie capsules that you can also get those through doTERRA. They're, I don't know, like €4 for like 100 or something. And all you do is just open them up, put a little bit of olive oil in, a couple of drops of the basil oil, and take it like a vitamin pill. So for cooking, you can add it, to your dishes, maybe to like a salad dressing, or to give your pesto a bit of a boost. But you really need very, very little. So not even a drop usually. Just get a toothpick and dip it in the top of the bottle, and then swirl that around. And then if you need a little bit more, do it again. So then you kind of build it up gradually with these oils that doTERRA produce, because they're so pure. They're very potent. So, less is more, basically.
Wow, that is so informative. It's funny because I love basil. I really, I do, and I've always been. That's so weird, because I know I'm a lavender girl. Like that's my. But
your lavender is missing today. You should have had a vase of lavender there.
I know. I don't
That's
have
purple.
any. I keep telling my partner, like, where's the lavender? And he's like, I'm gonna go get some. I'm like, summer's gonna be over. But I need it because I use it, like after it blooms, I actually cut it and I make things with it. We do have basil, so or basil. Sorry, my accent's coming out.
I love it. Me too.
But I go back to it regularly, and I didn't know all those wonderful things about it. So I'm really excited to hear that. It's a unique smell, the essential oil. It's a little bit different than the herb. I love it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, because you hit on, I don't know that I stressed it enough, the whole over or underdo it. Because we cannot think of something without its opposite, right? We live in a dual nature world. There's in order to have one thing, you have to have the opposite in order to understand it, right? In order to understand happy, you have to understand sad. And so, we can't have good without bad. We can't have a superhero without an antagonist. And so when we have our solstice, and when we're in the northern hemisphere, we tend to be very focused on our hemisphere. But let's not forget that there is the southern hemisphere. And if we're thinking in terms of metaphors, not necessarily living there, that, the opposite of overdoing it is underdoing it. And that can be a manifestation. It doesn't really matter which hemisphere you're in, but that can be it, that maybe you feel drained, exhausted, you're not, and not for a reason, like you're just underdoing things and might need a little pick me up. And so I love how this oil can help in either direction, right? Is that
yeah
cool. Love it. I'm gonna go find my basil. I know I have it here. All right, I think I'll give you the inspirational quotes first, and then we'll talk about what to do at the full moon, or over the next few days, and then over the couple of weeks during the entire full moon phase leading us to the next new moon. All right, so here I have 2 quotes for you. The first one is from Michelle Obama, and it's actually from her book, Becoming. And I always get excited when I can quote her because I think she's such a positive and strong female,
Yeah.
leader. So she says, she's saying this about her book, becoming isn't about arriving somewhere or achieving a certain aim. I see it instead as forward motion, a means of evolving, a way to reach continuously toward a better self. The journey doesn't end. And I think that so much captures what we're talking about today. It captures the Sagittarian energy. It's about the journey, not the destination. And I think when I read that, I was like, oh, that just sums it up right there.
Yeah.
And then I found another one. This is from Andy Rooney. He's a journalist. And he says, everyone wants to live on top of the mountain, but all the happiness and growth occurs while you're climbing it. So I think that's a very Sagittarian quote. It's about the experience. Once you get there, it's kind of like, well, what's next? Yes, enjoy it, have a party. It's like, oh, I made it to the top of the mountain. But you're not going to stay there, right? With what's next. And I love that quote.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so here's some ideas for you on the full moon. So this would be, like if you want to do something on that day or at that particular time of the full moon culminating. There are 4 full moon rituals that I wrote based on elements. So I will include the link to that. And this is a fire sign. Sagittarius is a fire sign. So you would want to do the ritual for a fire element. And, of course, safely, if you're going to burn a candle or start a fire, whether it's in your grill or a fire pit, just be very careful, especially if in the summer where sometimes fires get out of control. I used to live in San Diego where we've had terrible fires, destroying many homes. So I just put my little PSA out there for that. But yeah, do your fire element ritual and write or meditate by candlelight or moonlighting. When the full moon is full, it's pretty bright. You can sometimes see, there's actually moon shadows. Yeah, and then use the purple color, the color of purple, if possible, if you're into it and you have it. And make a list of your values. So the Sagittarius is very idealistic. It's a spiritual sign. I think that pop astrology, especially, we focus a lot on the easygoing, outgoing, fun, dynamic nature of Sagittarians. And just a reminder not to forget about that spiritual side, which is very much a Sagittarius quality. And through that, that's why I'm saying values, because values are at the core essence of who we are. And if we're not sure about our values, if we haven't thought about them, if we haven't, wrote them down and said, these are what are my values are, this is what's most important to me in life, we can be stumbling around in life and not really following the path that's most in alignment with what will bring us joy. So this is a really good thing to do at this full moon, is to really think about your values. What's most important to you in life? And are you living your life that in a way that's in alignment with those values? And if the answer is no, it's a good time then to meditate and think about what will help you bring that into alignment. And this very much relates to our conversation today about the solstices taking us to the outer reaches of the extremes that we can go and bringing it back in. Are you at extreme opposite of where you want to be? Are you in balance? Are you under energizing where you want to go in life, or are you overdoing it? Do you need to pace yourself? So this is a really great way to use this full moon energy, also recognizing it's on a weekday, and for anyone who works Monday through Friday, you may not be able to do anything elaborate, but after work, if you can get half an hour of time to yourself and do what I just said, that could be a great way to utilize this full moon energy. Now we do have the sun in Gemini, and recognize that Sagittarius is a social sign. So another way to do this is to be social, go to happy hour or get together with your friends or family, do it with others, or even do what I just said before with, your best friend or your partner. Others are definitely part of the energetic vibe. So don't feel like you have to like say no to your friends and go home and sit and meditate by yourself. You have to know what's right for you and feel it out inside of your guts. So being social with others is a good thing to do. And then the other thing that I would say is a good thing to do on the full moon is to review your goals. So we're halfway through the year, right? June is halfway through the year. And so hopefully you wrote goals at the beginning of the year, or you wrote goals at your birthday, or wherever you decide that you're going to do your annual review. Hopefully you have them, and this is a good time to review them. If you have never written goals, it's a good time to do that. It's always a good time to do that, by the way. Now I have some other things, other ideas, because we know that the full moon is a day, it's a particular time. So then we kick off the full moon phase, and that full moon takes us to the next new moon. So here's some other things that you can do in that 2-week time period. Bring a group project to fruition or complete a phase of it. Get together with your friends. So just like I was saying before, maybe you don't do that on the full moon, but do it, try to get together with people. Even better if you do something that would be, quote, spiritual, like, maybe a group, a shared, what do you call that? Like a shared value of, if you have a certain group of people and you share the value of something, and you honor that by doing something. So, maybe it's art. You all really art appreciation is so important to you. So you decide to go to a museum together, or you decide to go paint together, because you can do that. That would be really a great way to ring in this full moon. Be careful to pace yourself. Don't think you have to do everything on the full moon. You have this 2-week time period, and actually a lot of the dynamic energy is going to extend past this full moon. Sagittarius energy is really fun and exciting. So if you want to get something in during this full moon, do it and pace yourself, just be strategic with that. Sagittarius has a connection with horses. So if you're a horse person, go see a horse, ride a horse, draw a horse, watch a horse movie. Not everybody has access to a live horse, but I love horses. I've never been able to own one before. I did move to a ranch one time just to be near horses for 2 years. I lived on a horse ranch. So you just know thyself, and if horses are a big thing for you. I have one of my really good friends, she's a Sag, and she's kind of always had horses around her, but her partner that she's with now, they've been together for, I don't know, maybe 5 years now, but he bought her a horse. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so Sagittarian. And, a Sag with her horse. And I got so excited, because I'm like, it's so strange how many Sages end up somehow connected to horses.
Wow.
Not all of them, but they do. And, when I realized that, and I'm a Sag rising, I'm like, that's why I've always loved horses since I was a kid. I have a collection of little ceramic horses. To this day, I still have them. And my mother's tried to get rid of them numerous times. And I was like, no, we're keeping the horses. Okay, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent there. Mentoring is another Sagittarian thing. So if you've ever wanted to have a mentor or mentor someone, it's a good time to kick that off, to seek one out, or to start mentoring others. Let's see, what haven't I said? Training, education, travel are all Sagittarius things. If you already planned on traveling, you picked a good time. If you don't, and maybe a weekend getaway would be good. And sign up for a class or course, or do research into that, and spend time soul searching about how you want to expand your horizon, which we've already talked a lot about today. And then my last recommendation is write your bucket list. If you haven't done that yet, do that under the full moon. That could be a really cool thing to do.
Cool.
And that's all I have for you today.
Lots of inspiration.
And I thank you for saying that, because that's a Sagittarian word too. So that
is it?
It is. Yeah. So I'm glad you said that, because I think it validates that I was able to hopefully give you some information that is inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. And it's nice that there's no real kind of major challenges or difficulties with this moon phase, is there? That often, there is. So it sounds like quite a good time for most people.
I think so. I think that, the only caution is that overdoing it.
Yeah.
Pace yourself. Bring the basil oil.
Basil oil.
Exactly. Right. Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you, Laurie.
Yes, thank you. So we'll see you next time for the new moon, which will be either Tuesday or Wednesday, June 28th or 29th. So we'll be back with another episode.
Take care. Have
Okay.
fun.
Bye.
Bye.